He laughed at the Inuit ancient map. Then the ice cracked beneath his feet. As the sun hovered low over the icy horizon, Dr. Marcus Hale, a renowned cartographer from the south, unfurled an ancient Inuit map carved onto bluish slate. Its lines were unfamiliar runes and sweeping arcs that detailed shifting ice flows and hidden inlets shaped by centuries of wind and tide. Marcus leaned forward, squinting. "This is inaccurate," he scoffed, tapping the slate with his gloved finger. "A relic of superstition, not science." Around him, the elder hunters exchanged knowing glances. Kalik, a young Inuit guide with sharp, watchful eyes, bit her lip. She recognized every symbol as her ancestors' truth. She stepped forward. "Our map shows what the ground does, not what we want it to do," she said softly. Marcus chuckled and shook his head. He slid his boot onto the ice beside him, an expansive plain of translucent blue. "Show me how your map holds up." Immediately, a jagged crack splintered beneath him. The ice groaned as if in protest, and Marcus froze, panic surging. He tested his weight, but the fissure widened. Kalik lunged, grasping his wrist with effortless strength. "Hold on!" she yelled. He stumbled backward as the ice plate slipped and rocked. A spray of icy water hissed as it met frost. Within heartbeats, the crack sealed itself, as if swallowed by the frozen earth. Marcus stood trembling, face drained of color. He stared at the map in his hands, its carvings now seeming less quaint and more profound. The laughter died in his throat. Around him, the Inuits regarded him with a mixture of pity and quiet pride. Marcus realized that the real error was believing himself above the wisdom carved into stone. That night, Marcus lay awake in a low-slung tent warmed by oil lamps. The rhythmic howl of huskies drifted in from outside as Kalik hovered by the fire, her breath misting in the cold air. An elderly shaman, Nuna, draped in ivory furs, had drummed on a whalebone to soothe the panicked cartographer. Yet Marcus's mind churned with disbelief and awe. He studied his instruments, compass and sextant, tools he trusted far more than mystical lore. But the compass quivered when he pointed north. The needle spun as if frightened of something unseen. He frowned. The map's carvings pulsed faintly in the lamplight, glowing with an otherworldly sheen only Kalik could see. She watched him quietly, arms folded, waiting. "Your tools lie," she said at last, voice calm but firm. "The ice shifts. The spirits guide us." Marcus's pride bristled, but he did not retort. Instead, he followed Kalik as she pressed her palm to the slate. A soft vibration hummed under their fingertips. Lines on the map rearranged themselves, revealing a route he had dismissed as pure legend. By dawn, they set out again. Sled dogs strained against their harnesses, eager for the hunt. They rode across a labyrinth of ridges and crevasses, the wind carving patterns into the air. Marcus watched in stunned silence as Kalik read the map like a living being, pausing at symbols that shimmered in frost. At midday, they arrived at a shattered expanse of ice floes, each fragment drifting on frigid currents. The map marked this as the threshold of Wales, an expanse where spirits of the sea called out to those who listened. Marcus's heart pounded as the wind carried a distant melody, a whale's mournful song echoing across the horizon. He realized then that the map was a bridge between worlds, the measurable realm of science and the timeless domain of Inuit tradition. He swallowed hard, recognizing that humility would be his greatest guide. Marcus and Kalik approached the ancient rock circle at the heart of the bay, where standing stones bore cryptic carvings identical to those on the map. The stones rose like silent sentinels, their surfaces frosted with lichen and ice. Kalik closed her eyes and pressed a hand into the curling rune of a whale crest, murmuring a soft chant taught to her by her grandmother. Marcus watched, breath held. Suddenly the air vibrated, and the carvings glowed with pale blue light. Patterns shifted as if alive, guiding their gaze toward a fissure between two pillars. He knelt to examine the stone under his tools. The grain and texture matched no known mineral. The hexagonal lines on the slate map pointed directly here, yet science offered no explanation. As Kalik traced each arc, images formed in their minds. Narrow boats carving paths through midnight seas, ancestors paddling under auroras, voices carried on wind. Marcus shivered, feeling a bridge across time. He gently laid the map on the ice and watched astonished, as the light from the stones danced across the slate, illuminating hidden glyphs. Hours passed. By twilight, the chant faded, and the carvings dimmed. Calic opened her eyes and met Marcus's astonished gaze. "Our past speaks to us," she said. Marcus nodded, tears brimming. He had come seeking cartography, but found storytelling etched in stone. The map was not merely a tool, it was a living memory of his host's lineage waiting to be unlocked. They camped beside the stones, the map nestled between them. As flames licked at the dark, Marcus realized that every curve of the map carried a story of survival and kinship beneath the frozen sky. At dawn, the sled team stirred, their breath steaming in fractal patterns under a pale sky. Marcus, wrapped in furs, studied the map's shifting symbols, the lines now converging toward a cluster of jagged peaks on the horizon. Calic guided the lead dog, Nuna's gift of bone whistles at her throat, calling the animals forward in a series of low, melodic tones. The wind rose as they crested the ridge, a biting gust that rattled harnesses and whipped snow across their path. Marcus leaned into the gale, compass and instruments stowed. Here only the map and Calic's instincts would steer them. Each symbol on the slate corresponded to natural landmarks: a frozen waterfall, a horseshoe bay carved by centuries of currents, and a hidden ravine like a dark gash in the ice. They descended into a valley of wind-swept spires, each tower of ice glowing in transient sunbeams. The map's lines pulsed faintly, pointing toward the largest spire, where a narrow cleft offered passage. Calic paused and placed her hand on Marcus's arm. "This way," she said. He nodded, heart pounding at the raw power of the landscape. As they entered the cleft, the wind's roar softened into a low hum echoing along the icy walls. Marcus pressed his ear to the stone, hearing the resonance of shifting glaciers, an ancient heartbeat beneath the ground. He realized that no cartographic grid could capture this living world. Only the map of his companion held the key. Night fell before they reached camp, but the wind's memory lingered. By firelight, Marcus traced the paths on the slate once more, humbled by the terrain's fierce beauty and the Inuit knowledge that had charted it long before any modern survey. Under the vast expanse of the polar night, the camp was engulfed in twilight hues. Marcus woke to the faint glow of the aurora dancing across the sky, its ribbons of green and purple reflected in the crystalline ice around him. Calic moved silently, her breath visible in the frosty air, leading him to a sheltered alcove formed by frozen arches. There she placed the map flat on a slab of blue ice, its carvings illuminated by the aurora's light. As she chanted in the old tongue, the map's runes pulsed rhythmically like a heartbeat. Marcus felt a stirring in his mind, a cascade of fractured images, ancestors paddling in sealskin kayaks beneath spectral lights, great whales breaching near hidden reefs, children dancing on ice floes, and hunters tracking caribou through snow-laden forests. The visions were fleeting yet vivid, like shards of memory surfacing from a deep well. A sudden gust whirled snow into a spiral, and Marcus heard whispers, as if carried on the wind. The shadows of the alcove seemed to shift, revealing faint silhouettes carved into the ice walls, scenes from centuries past frozen in time. One silhouette showed an ancestor placing a piece of the same slate map into a hidden crevice, sealing it with a prayer to ensure its preservation for future generations. Marcus's pulse quickened. He realized that these visions were not merely illusions, but a call to complete what had begun ages ago. The map was guiding him to the next location, where the journey's purpose would be fulfilled. Calic placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Our ancestors speak through the ice," she whispered. "We must follow their path." Together, they folded the map and prepared to depart, hearts united by the weight of destiny and the silent echoes of those who came before. The horizon glimmered with promise and peril, beckoning them onward into the unknown. At the edge of a thin ice bridge, Marcus and Calic paused, huskies barking at currents below. The map guided them to a fragile crossing, a channel where glacial meltwater flowed under crystalline ice. Calic produced a slender harpoon. "We must dive," she said. Marcus nodded, heart racing. He recalled the tale of a hidden tunnel beneath the ice, spoken by shamans. Calic slipped into the water, vanishing into swirling currents. Marcus followed, bracing as icy water closed over him. Underneath, light filtered through fractured ice, painting the cavern in emerald hues. The current tugged at them as they swam through a narrow fissure, following glowing runes visible only to Calic. She tapped urgently, pointing toward a submerged arch carved in glassy ice. They emerged into a secret grotto, an expansive chamber of ice columns rising like cathedral pillars. At its center, a hidden lake reflected a pale aurora filtering through the ceiling. The walls bore inscriptions identical to those on the map, but more elaborate, hinting at journeys beyond known seas. Marcus pressed his palm to the carvings, feeling ancestral memory resonate through the stone. A soft rumble vibrated through the cavern as melting ice shifted overhead. Calic shouted, "Record this!" They traced key glyphs on waterproof parchment under lantern light, careful to document every detail. When they surfaced, breathless and exhilarated, Marcus realized that only blending exploration with belief could unveil the world's deepest secrets. Dawn broke over the hidden lagoon like a promise, pastel hues reflecting off the crystalline waters. Calic and Marcus stood at the water's edge, the ancient map open between them, its glyphs now glowing with gentle luminescence. As they watched, a deep resonant song echoed across the lagoon, a whale's call vibrating through the frozen air, a sound both mournful and majestic. Calic closed her eyes and whispered an invocation to the sea spirits. Marcus, awestruck, raised his hand to shield his eyes against the shimmering light dancing on the water's surface. From the depths, a massive silhouette emerged, a narwhal with a spiraled tusk like a spear of moonlight. It circled them, its eye reflecting the lanterns they carried as if acknowledging their quest. The whale's song swelled, guiding their gaze toward a distant inlet framed by towering ice cliffs. There, nestled in a crescent bay, lay an abandoned kayak carved from driftwood, its prow shaped like a whale's head. The map had marked this vessel long ago, yet no human voice had spoken of its existence in generations. With reverence, they approached the kayak. Marcus ran a hand along its polished curves, feeling the craftsmanship of hands long gone. Carvings of whales and ice floes mirrored those on the slate map. Calic traced the kayak's outlines in the snow, murmuring the names of ancestors who might once have paddled it. Suddenly the iceberg wall trembled, and chunks of ice fractured into the lagoon with thunderous splashes. The narwhal dove away, its tusk gleaming. Calic grabbed Marcus's arm. "The spirits warn us," she said urgently. "We must honor this place before it is lost again." Under the whale's lingering song, they set wooden markers carved with symbolic glyphs, pledging to protect the sacred bay. Marcus bowed his head, feeling the weight of responsibility settle in his chest. The map had led them here for a reason, to ensure that knowledge endured, like the whale's timeless journey beneath the ice. The morning air was crisp as smoke from small fires curled skyward around the monolith. Word of the sacred site had spread through the clans, and hunters, artists, and shamans arrived on foot and sled from distant encampments. Indigenous banners fluttered in the wind, their patterns echoing the map's glyphs. Marcus watched as Calic greeted each arrival by name, her voice firm but welcoming. Elders held carved staffs shaped like whales, youth wore necklaces of bone and feather. The monolith glowed softly, as if fueled by the gathering of so many hearts and histories. A rhythmic drumbeat began, low and resonant. Footsteps formed a circle around the standing stones. Marcus joined hands with Calic and Nuna, feeling warmth pulse through their linked circle. The sea breeze carried chants in a language rich with metaphor and memory. Together, they sang an ancestral song taught by Nuna, its verses tracing the map's paths through ice and time. Light burst from the monolith, illuminating the carvings in a kaleidoscope of emerald and sapphire hues. The crowd gasped as the stones seemed to shift, realigning into a perfect representation of the coastline. Children then released carved ivory figurines into the snow, miniature kayaks and seals, symbolizing renewal. As the final verse ended, the monolith cast beams toward the horizon, guiding all who gazed upon it toward unity and understanding. Marcus felt tears sting his eyes. He recorded every moment with humble reverence. Here the map had fulfilled its purpose, reuniting clans, restoring ancient bonds, and reminding all that the ice, like their culture, was alive and sacred. As the gathering dispersed, Calic led Marcus closer to the monolith. Its surface now bore fresh icicle formations, and cracks appeared where unknown pressures shaped the stone. The map pulsed urgently, its lines converging on a fissure at the stone's base. Nuna joined them, her staff glowing with embedded whalebone. "The monolith holds power," she intoned, "but balance is fragile. If we cannot appease its spirit, the ice will reclaim all." Marcus placed his mitt against the cold surface, He felt vibrations, like a heartbeat growing frantic. The map showed a hidden cavity beneath the stone. With Nuna's blessing, they pried open the crack and discovered a narrow spiral staircase carved into the ice, descending into darkness. Torchlight revealed subterranean chambers carved by ancestors, seeking refuge in ages past. Ancient tools lay stacked on benches of stone, and bas-relief carvings depicted celestial beings guiding hunters. Marcus sketched each tier, breath steaming in the gloom. At the lowest level they found a chamber sealed by an icy barrier. The map's final glyph hovered over it, a spiral unfurling into an open eye. Calic chanted, and the barrier melted into dripping runnel streams, revealing a crystal chamber filled with water. Inside lay relics, a carved whale's tooth pendant, a birchbark scroll, and a small model of the map itself. Suddenly, the ground trembled. Ice overhead groaned ominously. Marcus and Calic exchanged determined glances. Together, they retrieved the relics, recognizing their duty. Guard this chamber's secrets and share its knowledge. They emerged into daylight, relics in hand, knowing that destiny, not discovery, would define their path forward. Returning to the bay as dusk settled, Calic and Marcus bore relics wrapped in sealskin pouches. Word had spread that they returned triumphant, and clan banners streamed in through twilight. The monolith stood silent witness as families gathered to witness the rebirth. Nuna placed the whale's tooth pendant at the monolith's base. Calic unfurled the birch scroll, revealing ancestral songs and instructions for guardianship. Marcus stepped forward, holding the tiny map model, and spoke in both Inuit and Southern tongues, pledging to honor the balance between worlds. As he spoke, the monolith radiated beams of pearlescent light that fractured into 1,000 ice crystals, drifting skyward like snow. The crystals formed a luminous arch above the bay, sealing cracks in the ice and forging a new ridge that connected islands and inlets, just as the map had foretold. Cheers and songs rose. Marcus looked at Calic, gratitude and awe in his eyes. "Without your people's wisdom, I would have been lost in my own ignorance," he admitted. She smiled gently. "And without your heart open to listen, our past would remain hidden beneath the ice." Together they watched the transformed landscape, knowing that this new path would guide future generations. Under the glow of a revived ice world, they understood. The map was not merely carved stone, but a living promise, one that required guardians, scholars, and dreamers alike to keep faith with all that journeyed beneath the frozen sky. Thank you for joining Marcus and Calic on this incredible journey through ancient ice and ancestral wisdom. If this story moved you, leave a comment below sharing which moment resonated most. And don't forget to subscribe for more tales that bridge worlds and uncover hidden wonders beneath the frozen skies.